Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Heartland Alliance's Chief External Affairs Officer, Ed Stellan.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's so wonderful to be here. It's amazing to see nearly 500 people here with us tonight. 500. We are, yes, it's worth applause. We are so grateful to be surrounded and supported by such a dedicated community. I'm Ed Stellan. I'm very proud to serve as the Chief External Affairs Officer for Heartland Alliance. I've had the pleasure of meeting many of you during my more than 30 years with Heartland, most recently as the Executive Director of our healthcare programs. I'm so excited, thank you. Yes, go healthcare. I'm so excited to continue working with you in this new role in supporting the full Alliance. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our annual Power of Healing event, celebrating the Marjorie Kovler Center and 135 years of transformational service at Heartland Alliance. That's right. Good crowd. Tonight's program will focus on the work we have, are, and will continue to do to support refugees, immigrants, asylum seekers, and others facing forced displacement. It's no secret, nor is it an exaggeration, that we are in the midst of a true global displacement crisis, influenced by conflict, war, politics, and climate change. We've all seen the distressing images of violence in Ukraine, devastation in Turkey and Syria, and most recently, hundreds of Venezuelan asylum seekers sleeping in police stations in Chicago and other major cities, waiting for shelter. And with the recent expiration of Title 42, we expect the number of migrants seeking refuge at our borders to increase dramatically. With the support of many people in this room, Heartland Alliance has already responded to most of these crises. As an extension of our robust partnership with the Chicago Department of Public Health, we are now providing primary care, vaccinations, and behavioral health to more than 900 newly arrived asylum seekers who are residing in the city's shelters. Yes, very proud of that. Our National Immigrant Justice Center colleagues are also supporting these new arrivals, offering legal support and advocating for comprehensive immigration reform. And the Marjorie Kovler Center, Marjorie Kovler Center, where I am a proud volunteer for 17 years, has expanded capacity to address the historic demand for trauma-informed care and psychosocial services for survivors of torture and trauma, including many Afghan and Ukrainian humanitarian parolees. Despite the generosity of our donors and the tremendous efforts of our staff to grow service capacity, new and persisting crises cause our wait lists to grow at an exponential rate across Heartland Alliance, and this is outpacing our ability to fundraise and to staff up. This is why it is so important for all of us to be here tonight. All of us share the belief that everyone has a right to feel safe, to live free of violence, to heal from trauma. It's up to us to ensure that Heartland Alliance continues its 135-year legacy of healing and justice so that participants are empowered to live a life of opportunity and fulfillment. Tonight, we have the privilege of hearing from several guests, each of whom has a deeply personal experience around challenges that refugees and survivors of torture face. This includes our Photo Voice project participants who courageously shared their stories. Yes, through photos displayed during the cocktail hour. Can I ask these individuals in the room to please stand? Let's show them our thanks together, please. Thank you. Thank you. Powerful work. Thank you. Thank you. This is how we change hearts and minds. Thank you. Before we continue with the program, I would like to take a minute to thank our event sponsors. We are grateful to our premier sponsor, the Judy and Peter Bloom Kovler Foundation. Peter Kovler is also the founder of the Marjorie Kovler Center and is here with us tonight. Peter, thank you. To our presenting sponsor, the ARVD Foundation, our platinum sponsors, Crown Family Philanthropies and Vizient, and to all of our other sponsors supporting us here today, thank you all. I'm also really grateful to our elected officials who have joined us this evening, including Alderwoman Lenny Mana Hoppenworth and Judge Susana Ortiz. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. And I want to especially thank our incredible event co-chairs, Ali Azim, Alita Black, Charlie Garrido, Daniel Kirshner, and the Judy and Peter Bloom Kovler Foundation, along with our board members, leadership council members, dedicated staff, and volunteers. You are making tonight possible. Thank you. Finally, I would like to welcome and introduce Mary Kay Hazel, the new director of the Marjorie Kovler Center, who we are deeply fortunate to have leading this program during this important time. Mary Kay, can you please stand up? Kind of hard to see. I have no doubt that tonight's program will be a reminder of what we have and must do together to support those among us who have been displaced or left behind. There's still so much work to be done, but I know that this community will continue to come together, advance equity and opportunity for all. I want to make a note right now that our program and discussion tonight will necessarily engage with traumatic experiences and violence. Much of it will be emotionally and intellectually challenging to process. If you need a break during the panel discussion, Kovler staff will be in the lobby to provide support and some breathing space. I also know that it's not easy for our speakers to tell their story, so our role as the audience is to listen attentively and respond authentically as they share their experiences. I'm very grateful for them. So now it is my honor to welcome our very own Mary Ann Joyce to the stage to present the Kirshner Award. Thank you.
And Dan Kirshner is joining me. Hello, everyone. What a great evening. Dr. Bob Kirshner was a tireless human rights champion who used his unique skills as a forensic pathologist to document human rights horrors around the world and in our own backyard. His memory is honored each time this award is given for his extraordinary actions to advance the cause of human rights at home and abroad without hesitation. Tonight, we recognize Kristen Sarah and Craig Moosen. Yes, indeed. For their unrelenting efforts to draw attention and outrage to the human rights violations around the world, but especially ones conceived of and carried out by our own government. We celebrate their pursuit of justice and efforts to always be in community with everyone who seeks justice. Now, Adriana Bartow is a close friend of Chris and Craig, and she was going to be here tonight as well. But she's unable to be here, so I'll share her brief reflections. I'd like to show my deep appreciation for your love and solidarity for the victims of U.S. foreign policy, and my love and admiration admiration for the tireless work you have undertaken over the years. So I think she hit it right with love and solidarity and over the years, because Craig and Chris's investment in the pursuit of justice has been long-term. If you know Chris and Craig, and I know many people do, you might remember that they draped their house with a banner that said "Teach Peace" for many, many years. That's just one snippet. They've been engaged in a range of human rights activities, including teacher, music director, professor, minister, helping to raise a new asylum representation organization called MERC back in the 80s. Craig is a scholarly podcaster. Chris and Craig are organizers of the School of America's annual protests that used to be in Georgia and are now against repressive policies at the border. They've been organizing and teaching students and the public around themes important to all of us here: injustice, impunity, and structural violence. They work in the macro and the micro. They work like they know it's all connected. They speak truth to power. I ask myself, how do they do it? Only they can answer. But I think they are tremendous supports for each other, sort of a power couple for human rights. They nurture and draw from a wellspring of family joy and energy. Shout out to Table 2, Dorothy, Nathan, Gabe, Deborah, Tom, and Gwen. They invest in community, and we are all witnesses to that. Chris and Craig draw us in with their force field of kindness and righteous ideas about how we can all continue working together to preserve vital human rights and fight against impunity now. I'm so privileged to be a part of their community, and we're all privileged to be a part of that community. Aren't we lucky?
Craig had to tell me, I think we're supposed to go up there now.
I give thanks to each of you. And if Mary gave me another hour, I would name each of you and give thanks. But I want you to know that for each of you, but for your kindness, we would not be standing here. And I'm also so grateful to the staff and volunteers of the Kovler Center for this particular award in Bob Kirshner's name. It is good that we have heroes who not only demonstrate what can be accomplished, but who also accompany us on our journey. As asylum attorneys, we present stories of vulnerable people who have been threatened or intimidated. Bob raised that aspiration to a whole new level. He gave voice to those who the persecutors of the world would silence through death or disappearance. He documented evidence that deaths were not just a random sort of thing, but each person had lived lives that were so significant that the powers had to kill or silence them. Bob gave them new life and acknowledged their dignity. Bob was also incredibly brave. I've learned, I thought I knew a lot about him, but just in talking to folks, when he heard that the 6 Jesuits, their housekeeper and her daughter, had been murdered by the Salvadoran military, he immediately flew to San Salvador. Later, his notes from the murder scene led to some of the first convictions of a Salvadoran military officer in a Spanish court. Remarkably, our work is connected. One witness for the Spanish government was a Salvadoran who received asylum based on the efforts of my colleague Randy Rapp and some other National Immigrant Justice volunteers and staff. We are in this together. Despite his fame, Bob was accessible. To my knowledge, in the early 1950s, few immigration lawyers brought expert witnesses to asylum cases. We worked with Bob and Antonio Martinez at Kovler to develop how we could work with, how we could bring in experts who knew about therapy of people with PTSD or documented evidence of people weren't just victims of crime. And we developed a great program. And Bob would teach our pro bono attorneys. And I was honored he would come to my classes at DePaul College of Law and teach our law students and our clinic students how to work with an expert attorney. Bob also believed that to engage in human rights work, we must take hypocrisy out of the equation. If our nation violates human rights, we have a duty to call our nation to itself. Bob testified on behalf of... Can I turn my phone off? Turn my phone off? Bob testified on behalf of one of the African Americans who had been tortured by John Burge and other Chicago police officers. I went to court that day. I wish I had a videotape to share with you because it was one of the most remarkable testimonies I've ever seen in court. I watched in admiration as Bob spoke truth to power. By the way, our city has spent over $100 million trying to defend those police officers. And Bob was out there saying what they did wrong. Now, the city's attorney, who made a lot of bucks per hour, thought he could embarrass Bob by ridiculing his testimony. He asked Bob to show him how the torture occurred, like it was an everyday sort of thing. Without hesitation, Bob bounced in federal court, bounced off the witness stand, got down on his knees, and showed how the police officer pushed the man's chest against the steam radiator. And that's how he could tell from the scars that were left. He sliced through the city's hypocrisy with a clear determination that the truth be told. Bob Kirshner, presente.
I was very sad when Adriana told me that she wasn't going to be able to come tonight. And in her sadness, I reminded her that she remains one of the key roots of my own soul, of my call and the challenge and inspiration to solidarity. As a teenager, when the norm is, of course, to push against the parental boundaries, my parents lived a very intense challenge as I wasn't organizing and picketing and marching in their own neighborhood, including work with the United Farm Workers. I am deeply grateful for my mother, who is here tonight, and for my father, whose spirit continues to inspire me, for it is their patience and their unconditional nurturing love that has led me in part to this day. In my teaching, you have to know I'm more comfortable singing than speaking, so this is really odd for me. I teach a global music anti-racism-based program, and I primarily work with refugee and asylum seeker communities. And I continually learn and am reminded of the embrace of welcome. Through decades of organizing with the School of the Americas Watch, in challenging the devastating and destructive US foreign policies that result in the current tragic roots of forced migration, I constantly learn and am reminded of solidarity. As part of the last 3 years, collectively working with the Sanctuary Working Group to solidify sustaining support for asylum seekers, I regularly learn and am persistently reminded of the importance of resilience.
I know we're going a bit over, but permit me to add a few more thanks. I give thanks to my Wellington United Church of Christ faith community that taught me about sanctuary and welcoming the stranger into our houses of hospitality, even at risk to ourselves, and their continued work over the years to continue to be a voice. I give thanks to Andre Lecoq from Chicago Theological Seminary, who taught me the Hebrew Bible's call to welcome the stranger. My days often found us discussing liberation theology in Betsy Bichel's carpool to seminary in the morning. And later, developing legal theories with my colleagues and volunteers at the National Immigrant Justice Center to represent asylum seekers who had lived lives steeped in liberation theology. And I have to stop here that my sister and brother flew in from the East Coast, Gwen and Thomas. And I still recall when my brother, a very poor seminary student ahead of me, would give me books on liberation theology before I knew what they were about. And I'm so grateful to him to start me on this path. So thank you. But imagine what a blessing that was to study liberation theology and then to work with a client who told me why she brought medicine to her village, or a young catechist who said, I cannot kill even though the Salvadoran army wants me to kill. I thank my wife, Chris, for our joint ministry and our children. You heard them earlier, but could they stand? Nathan and Gabriel and Deborah. We took them to more protests and Good Friday walks for justice than I can even count. But I'm grateful you each engaged it in your own way. Our annual trips to the School of the Americas Watch Vigil became a family ritual, let alone a vacation. Nathan, thank you for your collaboration with the Musicians Collective at SOAW. Your music with them contributed to what Pete Seeger said was the singingest protest since the Civil Rights Movement. Thank you. With Marianne Joyce, Deborah joined the Puppetistas. She would strap on stilts onto her legs, towering over me, and dance through the street with the street theater, all the while carrying a sign that no one is illegal. Thank you, Deborah. And one year, as we prepared to begin the procession, Adriana Barteau, who Marianne and Chris have talked about, described the loss of her family and her work in bringing the perpetrators to justice. Later, as we walked in the procession, Gabriel, who was probably about 6th grade maybe, ran up to me and said, someone wanted to talk to me. It turned out to be a TV reporter. She asked me if it was wrong to bring my children to a demonstration such as that. I paused. I said a little prayer to God that I'm going to trust my son, and said, why not ask him? She asked him. He looked straight in the camera, and he said, did you hear that woman speak just before we started marching? She was at our home for dinner a few weeks ago. Why wouldn't we be here? Thank you, Nathan, Gabriel, and Deborah, for I continue to hear that question, and I offer it to each of you with all we heard earlier of what's going on in the world. Why wouldn't we be doing this work? Thank you.
I see you with my eyes. I see you with my heart. Those are the first words of a song a colleague of mine, Elise Witt in Georgia, who works with young girls and women from many corners of the earth, refugee and asylum seekers. And in singing that song, she learned from her Malawi friend that what that means, when you greet someone in Malawi, you do not say, hello, how are you? You say, I see you with my eyes, I see you with my heart. Craig and I thank the Kovler Center for being a place of welcome. Thank you.
Please welcome Melissa Cook, Executive Director of Heartland Alliance International, and this evening's featured speakers, Peter Magai-Bull and Makath Mabiar.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Cook, and I'm proud to serve as Heartland Alliance International's Executive Director. Thank you. I just want to congratulate Craig and Chris one more time. They're beloved members of the HAI family and advocates for the work that we do. So thank you for all that you do. I often get asked what we do overseas, and it's quite simple. Our brave and resourceful HAI team is known globally for advancing human rights protections, gender equity, access to justice, empowering livelihoods, providing primary health care, mental health care, support for victims of violence, victims of human rights abuses, and forced displacement. Our programming happens all around the world, in Latin America and the Caribbean, Middle East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and here at home in Chicago at the world-renowned Marjorie Kovler Center. You've probably all heard about the current violence that has erupted in Sudan in recent weeks. I asked my colleague, Rayon McFadden, whose family just thankfully escaped to safety in Egypt, to help me prepare the following remarks. So I just wanted to thank you to Rayon. For decades, the Sudanese and South Sudanese people have tried again and again to have a transition to civilian rule and stability and freedoms in their country. What's happening now to them, again, is a tragedy. It's my belief that we must listen to the voices of the Sudanese people themselves about what's needed. And while emergency relief must come, and Heartland Alliance International stands ready to support, it should never be, as it often is, in place of a larger discussion about what is needed to end the conflict and to help people stabilize their country. Sudanese people right now are making extraordinary efforts to help each other and to get vulnerable families to safety, which we have witnessed within our own family here at Heartland. So in this vein, I would like to introduce our esteemed and courageous guests, Peter Magai-Bull and Maketh Mabior, who were directly impacted by the civil war in South Sudan in the 1990s, and often referred to as Lost Boys of Sudan. During the war, many villages and communities in southern Sudan were attacked and destroyed by government forces, leading to the displacement of millions of people, including children. At the age of 7 and 9, Peter Magai and Maketh were separated from their families as they were forced to leave and travel hundreds of miles on foot, seeking safety. They spent nearly 15 years living in refugee camps in Ethiopia and Kenya, enduring constant life-threatening situations before being resettled here in Chicago in 2001. Today, I'm very pleased to share that they are pillars of the Sudanese community in Chicago, regularly engaging in human rights activism and advocacy and supporting new arrivals. They build awareness by sharing their story through speaking engagements, which included a guest appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show. And they're both very established and well-respected professionals in the hospitality and hotel industry. So we're deeply honored to have them with us tonight. So again, please join me in welcoming Peter Magai-Bull and Maketh Mabior. Okay, so we're gonna do a little fireside chat. So let's start at the beginning. Can you share some more information about your journeys for everyone here? So leaving home and life in the refugee camps. Peter Magai, perhaps you could start us off.
Good evening. Thank you, Melissa, for the wonderful introduction. I'm really honored to be here on the stage with Melissa and my cousin, Maketh, to share our history tonight. Before I briefly introduce myself, I have three wonderful friends who are sitting in the crowd here. I've been in Chicago here for 22 years. None of my family is here. But I have a friend who have been a friend and at the same time a very close family friend to me. One of them is a young woman from Ethiopia, from the Oromo. We both came to this country as a refugee, and then we started going to school at Truman College, because when we came here, we were at the age where we cannot go to high school. And I met my friend here, Sina, for more than 20 years. Sina had been pushing me to share my history. I've been doing the same thing to her. And the situation in Ethiopia, if there's one person in Chicago here who are making sure the Oromo people in Ethiopia who have been oppressed like South Sudanese when we were under the Khartoum regime, that the situation is heard, it is Sena who is sitting in the audience here. And then I have a very, very, very great friend, Shan Tena. Shan has never made up his mind yet, but honestly, I want this friend of mine to one day be a governor of this state. We know all the elected officials, whether they are mayor or the governor or people who represent us in Washington. Shan Tena is one of those hardworking guys who make sure the right people are elected to the office. And so Shan is here with his wife, Shawani, and I want you to just stand up for a minute. Forgive me, but last year, I delayed my marriage, and I married in 2021. Last year, Sean contacted the people from the U.S. State Department, and he said, my friend just got married, and he's with his wife in Kenya. And they called the embassy in Kenya. They organized this wonderful event to welcome me and my wife. And Sean flew from Chicago all the way to Kenya, and we have that wonderful ceremony. So when you talk about true friends, Sean is one of those friends. So thank you, Sean and Sena and Shawani, for coming tonight. 22 years ago, someone from Heartland Alliance went to the meeting of different agencies and NGOs, chose my name, and then one afternoon, I woke up at the refugee camp in Kenya and went to a place where all names of the people, of the lost boys who were supposed to come to Chicago were put on the board, and then you would come and see your name, which city are you going to if you are accepted to come to the US. Someone I don't know from this organization chose my name, and I was sponsored by Heartland Alliance to come to Chicago, and I'm here on the stage today at the event sponsored by the organization that resettled me in this great city. For 21 years, I made a commitment to share my history, going from high school to elementary school to university, going to the Capitol Hill, going to churches, synagogue, all the places I've been invited to share my history. And I went back to the village on my best, especially when I appeared on Oprah Winfrey Show. I got connected and I started raising money, and I went and started a school in my village to educate the young one. And I mentioned that if it wasn't because of people like you are sitting in this room today who support Heartland Alliance, I would have not been in Chicago. And so for the work I have done over the years, and for this organization, I want you to clap for yourself. I came here as one of the children known as the Lost Boys, and Lost Boys and Girls of Sudan were the children displaced in the mid and late 80s. The displacement occurred in two ways. The SPLM that was fighting the Sudanese government came to our parents and told us that, give us your children, we are taking them to school. And our people, our parents, believed them. The Sudanese government, on the other side, attacked villages and they were displacing people, and some children have to run away for their own life. We all collected ourselves. And our journey began from the village. And we thought we would be back to our families in a matter of a week or so, because children sometimes don't know. That journey took about 1 to 3 months, depending on how far your village was from Sudan to Ethiopia. Many of the children lost their life along the way. Those of us who survived the journey end up in Ethiopia, in 2 places. When we got there was nobody to take care of us. So we organized ourselves, and then we formed a group of 50 to 100, and leaders were assigned to take care of those children. So we struggled in Ethiopia for 4 years, but Ethiopia got into its own war in 91, and we were displaced again. And we had to run away at the gunpoint. We tried to go back to our country, but the Sudanese government heard the children who were recruited by the SPLM and displaced by the same government were coming back to Sudan. So we were attacked by our own government. So instead of going to Sudan, we took another journey, and we ended up in Kenya in 1992. And most of us who survived the journey to Ethiopia and the war in Ethiopia ended up in Kenya in 1992, and we lived in a refugee camp in Kenya for 9 years before nearly 4,000 of us were chosen to come to the United States in 2001. It took me 20 years to go back in the village of my birth and see my family. So when I became a U.S. citizen in 2007, I decided to leave Chicago here and go back to the village to see my family. So I arrived in my village of birth in January of 2008. So if you do the math, from 1988 to 2008, that's how long it took me to go and see my mom and my brother. Unfortunately, I lost my dad during the war, so when I went back, that was the person I couldn't see. So I'm here with my kids tonight. I was supposed to have a 2-minute, but the Lost Boy journey is a very long one, and I just want to make sure I give him a chance to share a little bit about himself. But once again, I congratulate and thank those who were honored tonight, and those of you who have made a commitment to come and listen to refugees who have to leave their home country because of the violence. And you have heard from the previous speakers, many of those now are in displacement camp, including my own family. So I'm honored to stand before you tonight to share this story, and it's something I've been doing for the last 22 years. Thank you, and now my kiss.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. Awesome. So, Makath, when we last spoke, you mentioned that you two knew each other as children, but were separated and reconnected along the journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction before. And I would like to thank 2 people in the audience, which is Nancy and Julie, the one who tracked us down to be here tonight. As Peter mentioned, it was not a journey that we prepared for. It was a journey that we took by force. It was at the gunpoint. And family were separated in a different direction. Me and Peter grew up together. But when the war broke out, Peter was able to leave at the first. My mom thought and my dad thought that the war will end up within 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So we try to hide at daytime. At nighttime, we come to see what is available. And so we were separated for 3 years. Peter was in a different refugee camp. I was in a different refugee camp. But there was no communication. There was no phone line that you have to call your mom or your friend. So you are cut off from communication. Anytime there's another displacement, and then you met on the way, that's how you have to reconnect and know that somebody was living in a different location. And then that's how we were separated throughout the life in Ethiopia. And then we met when we were both forced out to leave Ethiopia.
Wow. So in 2001, when you came to Chicago, and I'd love it if you could share with everybody the inspiration for Chicago, because we share this in common, our love of Michael Jordan.
I chose Chicago before Chicago chose me. When I was living in a refugee camp in Kenya, my sister bought me a T-shirt. And on the front of the T-shirt was Michael Jordan. But when I went through the interview, there were 16,000 refugees boys and girls living in that camp. The challenge is who's going to be number one, who's going to be number two, who's going to be number three. So we all went through the process. So when I sat down with the guy and told me, if you have a chance, where would you like to live in America? And I told him I want to live in Chicago. I didn't know about the weather. But he told me why. I say, I know Chicago Bull, so that's why I want to go to Chicago to see Michael Jordan. I met Michael Jordan several times, and Chicago is a wonderful city.
But, I mean, you must have faced challenges when you came here. Can you tell us about that? 2001, arriving in Chicago, what was it like?
When we got that acceptance letter, you felt like you had a jackpot because your life can change. Yeah. So those people who didn't get that acceptance letter, and I remember when I got mine, I went on a side and I bowed my head down to pray that this is going to be my acceptance letter to come to the US. And my wishes was true. I got my acceptance letter. I was jumping up and down. So, and I have to say goodbye to all my friends that I lived for 9 years. And I decided that those people who didn't get a chance, I have to give them my shoes, my clothes. So I came to Chicago with the clothes on my body. But when we landed here, we didn't know that we have to take another journey from landing from point A to point B. You live in a refugee camp where you don't even experience to cook on a stove, to turn on the light, to go shopping, to take a bus, to go for an interview, to get a job. Those things become so challenges. And I know my first job, I got it through the co-worker. My case manager came in and said, this guy will be a great access to your company if you give him a job, because I don't have anything that pop up on my resume that I worked before. So it becomes so challenging. You were given 5 pounds of coin for 15 days. And you come to the big city. I was lucky because I was taken to the host family. And the host family thought that I'm so skinny. So they have to cook breakfast, lunch, dinner. But my stomach cannot take it because I get used to eat 1 meal per day. Because 15 pound of coin is not enough for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And so the family have to choose to eat 1 meal per day, which is not enough. So to come to a city like Chicago and be hosted by the one respected family, try to feed me every day, I cannot take it. Communication, try to speak, but nobody can hear me. I have to repeat myself many times. And I work with a piece of paper, and I try to write it and say, this is what I mean. So, and weather become a challenge because I came where it was 90 degrees and 100. Imagine coming to a city where it's below 0.
Oh, thank you for that. You remain deeply involved in your community. Why is it so important for you to stay involved?
Well, my involvement did not started when I left my country and became a refugee. I was lucky to be born in a family of the most caring parent. So when I was in the village, by that standard, my father have 2 homes. We have large farm where we grow crops. We keep a lot of cows. And I remember my family was at the pass where everybody who would travel to town, going to town, they would pass through the compound on my family. And during those days, there would be a container of water in the compound, so anybody passing by would have to take that water. So my family were very active in the community. They helped people in so many ways. And I was lucky, I came at number 11 in my family. I was the last born. And so for that reason, my family they want to make sure I stay with the elders and listen to the histories and what they do. So that's where my leadership started. So when I was displaced, I became one of the leaders who were taking care of the children in Ethiopia. During those days when you are chosen, either because you are tall in the group and you are chosen to be a leader of 100, 500, 1,000 people, you become like a parent to those children. So your role back then was, where are they going to sleep? What are they going to eat? If we lost a number of children, we have to honor them by making sure that we bury them. That was my role in Ethiopia and Kakuma. So when I came to Chicago here, I wanted to make sure that I have to find a way to give back. One of the things Lord Boy have done, if Lord Boy were not in America, there would have been no country called South Sudan. When we came to this country, we find it important to share our history, although some of the Lord Boy never want to be reminded about the things they went through. I made a choice myself that it is only by sharing our history, educating enough Americans, that there is a possibility we could end the war in Sudan. So I went to all the places I mentioned sharing my history, and so do some of the Lost Boys. So our goal was to raise awareness.
Thank you.
I also found a need that if war had to stop in South Sudan, we have to empower the young generation. So when I left Chicago here, I went only with the intention to visit my family. But I was welcomed by the children who say, Peter, we heard Americans are very generous people. When you go back, we want to go to school. I'm like, no, how would I do that? But with the friend I have in Chicago and appearing on Oprah Show and all the places I've been, meeting Michael Jordan at the United Center, making connection through those commitments, I was able to raise money, went back 2 years later. Apart from that, America is a great country, but we have problems in this city of Chicago, things I didn't know before I came to Chicago. So I find it important too to share my history with the young people, to look themselves that, because sometimes when you hear other history from other refugees or people like myself, who had to struggle on their own without the support of their parents, and still make it to where I am today, I find it important to share my history as a way to inspire, encourage young people, educate them, to be able to compare their histories with mine, and then maybe they could use my history for their own good and for the good of this great country. So yes, those were some of the reasons I find it important to be able to put myself out there. Even at the time we could not speak English, I was brave enough to stand before the audience and just do the best I can to let people hear my history. And so during the Bush administration, we educate them enough, and then with all the process that our leaders went through, that's what gave birth to South Sudan in 2011. Now, even if there are crises in both countries, Sudan, we believe the world is known what is happening in South Sudan, and people are being helped in so many ways, but unfortunately we have leaders who don't care about their own people. But one day, those wars are going to end with the support of people like you and people like myself who have been given a chance to come to this country.
Peter McGuy. Wow. Thank you so much. Peter McGuy and McCath, thank you so much for your candor. Thank you for sharing your stories with everyone here. Thank you for all that you do for our community. I feel lucky to have been a part of this conversation tonight, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's my honor to now welcome Dr. Ole Katsayuba to the stage to present this year's Sister Diana Ortiz Award.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for having us here for this wonderful, wonderful event. My name is Oleg Kutsuba, and I work at the Ukrainian Research Institute at Harvard University, a small private university, where I direct the Institute's publications program. I have the distinct pleasure tonight of introducing the recipient of this year's Diana Ortiz Award for Courage, Stanislav Aseyev, a torture survivor and a human rights champion. Our institute was founded in 1973 and has worked very hard to draw attention to Ukraine, its history and culture, and to reclaim a lot of Ukraine's heritage from Russia and the Russian Empire. I was told I only have 3 minutes for this presentation, just like other participants of tonight's forum, so I will try to stick to it. 3 minutes is way too little time, it would seem. But a few minutes can sometimes change your life entirely. It took only a few minutes for Stanislav Aseyev's illegal arrest to happen. That morning, as he writes in his remarkable book, The Torture Camp on Paradise Street, he had a breakfast of farmer cheese with raisins and sour cream. He took a warm bath, listened to pleasant music, and put on new cologne. A perfectly ordinary morning in May. There were no signs of impending doom, no omen to suggest he wouldn't taste farmer cheese again for a few years to come. The next 969 days, almost 3 years, Stanislav spent in captivity in various illegal detention facilities of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, a Russian-sponsored deformity run by violent gangs and coordinated by the Russian Secret Service. Nothing seemed ordinary when he was arrested, but what he writes about in his book is that the torture itself that happened seemed absurd in how ordinary it was. I will read a short excerpt that may seem hard for some people to listen, so I just want to give a fair warning. This is from one of the chapters in this book. Stanislav writes, I was astonished when I was first brought handcuffed into a room like that and made to sit on a chair next to a window that opened onto one of Donetsk's main boulevards. A few minutes later, men would attach electrical wires to my thumbs and send a charge through them, but the rest of the day would remain just as ordinary. There would be no darkness in it, no terrifying basement cells like those where my future fellow inmates would be tortured. I would still see the trees outside. The captors even took the hood off my head. The bright May sun that shone just as gently, and a bit farther off, people at the bus stop who were waiting for their buses, while my body spasmed and contorted. The absurdity of all of this, being squeezed into one small fragment of the city, would astonish me many times over. The reason I wanted to read from this book is because it testifies to how torture and war crimes can happen in broad daylight. When we are sitting here and enjoying food and drinks and ourselves, our wonderful company, there are people out there in the world, not just in Ukraine, but elsewhere, who are being tortured and who are being submitted to horrible, horrible things. Stanislav writes in his book that torture as such, in his understanding, the way that it was done by the Russian mercenaries was not about pain. It was really about humiliation. It was about breaking your human spirit. It was about making you into an animal. I think he deserves this award for many reasons, not because there are several parallels between him and the achievement of Diana Ortiz herself, who was so courageous in fighting for justice, but also because he proves with his work that you can go through something as horrible, as excruciating as what he has gone through in those 969 days, and yet remain a warm, wonderful human being, a great guy who will always embrace you and who always will do whatever you need help for. I think that although the experience itself described is really horrendous, the book itself is really uplifting because it testifies precisely to that capacity of us as human beings to overcome this inhumane treatment by rising above the enemy and by adhering to the highest of our values. I am especially grateful that we had the honor of publishing this book at the Ukrainian Research Institute, and I hope that all of you in the future will turn your eyes to Ukraine, to the work of our institute, and to work of other nonprofits who support Ukraine through spreading knowledge and to spreading ideas and witness testimonies such as this one. Without further ado, please welcome Stanislav Aseyev, the award recipient of the Diana Ortiz Award for Courage.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, let me say thank you for this award. It's a great honor for me. And I would like to say a few words in Ukrainian, if you don't mind, and Oleg will help me with translation. So, всі ви знаєте, що зараз відбувається в моїй країні.
All of you may know already what is happening in my country.
Всі ми отримуємо масу інформації, яка впливає і пояснює події на фронті та в політиці.
Many of us receive a lot of information about what is happening at the front line in Ukraine and oftentimes tries to explain and analyze it.
Але зі свого досвіду я хочу сказати, що існує лише один визначальний фактор, і цей фактор є страх.
From my own experience, however, I would like to stress that one defining factor exists in all of what is happening right now. And from my experience, that factor is fear.
Військова чи економічна підтримка є лише наслідком цього, бо цей світ є світом тих, хто боїться та хто діє.
Military or economic support, in my view, is only one outcome of that situation, because in the world, there really only exist people who are afraid and those people who act.
Я провів в полоні 2,5 роки.
I've spent in captivity over 2.5 years.
І в цій книжці я відверто пишу, що за цей час я відчув величезну кількість різновидів страху.
And I write in this book that during that time I have experienced many different versions of fear.
Але сьогодні я стою тут перед вами, в тому числі як засновник Justice Initiative Fund.
But today I stand before you also as the founder of the Justice Initiative Fund.
Цей фонд займається пошуком російських воєнних злочинців за фінансову винагороду.
Our foundation engages in finding Russian war criminals using the crowdfunding method of reward.
І на сьогоднішній день ми ідентифікували всіх людей, які в тому числі катували мене особисто, і сьогодні за них вже призначена винагорода, яку, власне, може поповнити і збільшити будь-яка людина.
I'm happy to report that as of today, we have managed to identify all of the people who engaged in torture, including my torture, and that all of them have been listed on the website of the Justice Initiative Fund, where every individual can donate to support the reward for capturing those war criminals.
So, thank you. So the only thing that I wanted to say, don't be afraid, and glory to Ukraine. Thank you.
Героям слава.
Please welcome David Sinsky, Executive Director of Heartland Human Care Services.
Good evening. My name is David Sinsky, and I have proudly served as the Executive Director of Heartland Human Care Services since 2013. And before I move into my remarks, I want to thank Stanislav for his extraordinary strength and courage in sharing his story, which has and will continue to help secure safety and justice for others in Ukraine. I am so humbled and honored by the opportunity to work at Heartland, a pillar of hope for so many who have been disenfranchised, a place of healing, respect, and opportunity, a place that sees the humanity in others every day and strives for equity all the time. I must admit, however, that this work also makes me feel very uncomfortable. Uncomfortable that I have a warm bed to sleep in every night, that I have healthy food to eat every day, that I do not have to fear that organized criminal groups will show up randomly at my door as often as they want, demanding money, threatening to take my home, and threatening the safety of those dearest to me. It is distressing that millions of our fellow human beings may never have the level of safety and stability that they deserve, and that many may be resigned to living in a camp for their entire lifetime, always, though, hanging on to the hope that a welcoming country will choose them to be resettled. It makes me uncomfortable to know that right now, grandmothers in Central America are preparing their granddaughters, 11, 12-year-olds, to take an extremely dangerous trek north on their own. They're providing them with birth control pills because the threat of gender-based violence is so devastatingly real. It is important for me to acknowledge my discomfort, to feel it, to let it gnaw at me. It compels me to double down on this work, to ensure that Heartland is that beacon of hope, that first step towards freedom and opportunity, and that we are the truth teller of what is wrong with our world, while simultaneously holding a vision and acting on a plan of how to make it right. This is my very human experience of Heartland. Deep pride, disturbing discomfort, a compelling drive to do more, and the youthful optimism that we will create a better world. I am so grateful that you are on this journey with us. You heard earlier Peter McGuy share that he received support from Heartland through our Refugee and Immigrant Community Services program. Many of you know this as RICS. Since the 1980s, RICS has helped thousands of people like Peter McGuy to successfully navigate the complexities of resettlement, helping them establish housing, financial sustainability, employment, and English language skills, and gain access to healthcare, education, and legal services. But RICS is just one piece of a uniquely comprehensive set of services available to refugees and immigrants at Heartland Alliance. Together, we are advancing human rights. RICS, the Kovler Center, the National Immigrant Justice Center, the healthcare team, youth residential services, and our international programs. All of us walking side by side with tens of thousands of immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers each year to carry out the necessary work of securing stability and the promise of a bright future. In just a moment, you will hear from 3 extraordinary individuals who went through the resettlement journey themselves, and today guide others through the same process with exceptional compassion and understanding, serving as case managers at RICS. Emma, Valeria, and John Aga, you embody our values of courage, partnership, integrity, and respect, and offer hope and opportunity for the participants you serve. You are amazing role models. Please stand so we can give you a round of applause. And now I ask that you turn your attention to the screens. And as you watch this video, I hope everyone here tonight will reflect on and feel pride in your role as a member of the extended Heartland Alliance community. It takes all of us.
Sometimes people see the pictures on the social media and then they see, kids are struggling, there's no food, there's no water, people are dying, people are stranded, like all these people are homeless, people don't have shelter. It is true, but at some point, those are human beings who need life. They can go to school, they can get educated, they can bring difference in this country. But only if I'm given that chance and that opportunity.
My name is Valeria Kondrushina. I am a bilingual case manager for Ukrainian population, and I use she, her.
My name is Emma Yaka. I am a medical case manager, stroke of PC preferred community. I'm a Ugandan, and I came to the United States as a refugee.
My name is John Aga Timuri, and I'm from Afghanistan, and I live in the United States from 2017 up to here, and I came as a SIV case holder.
Working in this field keeps me connected with participants because I see them every day, I meet them every day. And then the good thing that Heartland had done, most of these resettlement organizations, they put most of refugees in north side. So it is likely that when you step in the store, you meet a friend.
In the past, I was needed for help. And right now I feel them, how it feels if someone comes to you and welcome you in somewhere that you don't know. That's really, I'm enjoying from the time that I'm helping them to go and follow their goal.
We are in the same position, most of us, with the legal status as well as going through the experience of fleeing the country when the war started. And I could definitely empathize with them on a deep level because I went through that. And yeah, I just understand the mentality as well of mothers coming with their children and leaving a lot behind and sacrificing a lot to ensure safety. Going through a lot of bureaucratic procedures, people lost that feeling that someone cares and that they can receive services with care rather than just, documents and going through like papers. And I think that's the most important and healing element of any therapy or just any support work, that personal connection, that a person can rely and call you and, be honest with you and open, and they can just get stuff off their shoulders and feel a little more at ease because they know that you're there.
I think as an organization we have limited resources to offer 100% services to everyone. And resources can also help with, capacity building. We have, limited workers who can handle everything at the same time. Housing is always a challenge. And it's not just only housing, it's beyond housing. There is credit. We come here with no credit. All the landlords need people with credit. We don't have it.
To help others, to make them be self-sufficient, that they can feel really happy because of they are coming from really hard time and wanted to have a better futures. That's a hope that I wanted to have for everyone that they are coming in the United States.
Doing my part with helping Ukraine, because I'm not there, I can't volunteer. So that's the part that I'm doing, which is still contributing to my people and Ukrainians. And I hope that the war ends and I can come back with the experience that I gained here and help rebuild a better country.
Resettlement, and it's not just one person resettlement, it involves millions of people who are out there looking for safety of their lives. We need to move from surviving. We are survivors, right? But we need to thrive. But how can we do that? It's by finding people like you, people who are willingly to stand with us, people who have not lost the hope from us and support us. Sometimes it's not money, might be information, might be connection, might be just comfort. All that welcome, it means a lot. What gives me hope is the country itself gives me hope. Country America gives me hope. I feel like I'm safe. To the people like you, people who are standing with us, people who are willing to listen to our stories.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Good? Can we have a nice round of applause for you, for our heroes in the room? Every time I do one of these events, it lifts me up as a person because there's magic in this room tonight. There's so many heroes in this room tonight, and the world's a pretty crazy place right now. We know this. And I'll be honest, and I'm sure some of you feel this, we lose faith sometimes. Is it getting too crazy? And then there's this. There's magic in this room tonight. And Ed, where's Ed? Ed, nice round of applause for Ed, please. Super Ed, as I like to call him. I picture him with a big HA on his chest and a cape. Ed, you said it perfectly. We're here to heal injustice tonight. Everything that you've heard tonight, everything that this amazing organization does, Heartland Alliance, key word there, alliance. You are part of that alliance, and we need your help to do all the wonderful work that they do to heal the injustice. We need your help tonight. So tonight, I'm going to ask you to reach deep in your pockets, and we're going to start with a few thousand, and we're going to go down to a few hundred. And don't think that a few hundred doesn't make a difference. It all adds up. A few thousand, you can sponsor programs. A few hundred, you can feed people who have nothing to eat. He said it in the video. He said it perfectly. He said, I feel safe. Think about that. I think we've all had points in our lives where we didn't feel safe. To have that feeling where you suddenly just get to feel safe in your life and have a life you've always dreamed of. Everybody in this room tonight, from a few hundred to a few thousand, you can change people's lives. You can give them safety. You can give them refuge. The power of healing, that's the name of this whole event. So, what'd you say? Get out of here. I know my job. If you haven't met me before, I'm a little stupid. Some people know me. Some people are like, why did they hire him? Please pull out your paddles right now. We're going to practice real quick. I want you to raise them nice and high so I can see them. Can we turn the lights up a little bit so I can see all these numbers? Raise them up. It's like a concert. Raise them up. Raise them up. 427, $10,000, 352. Don't put it down. It's rude. Oh, he kept it up. Thank you. Yeah, can we lift the lights in the room a little bit? Because I need to see the numbers. We're going to start off tonight with $5,000. $5,000 will support the development of Heartland's new coordinated emergency response team. They address immigration crises like the busloads of Venezuelan asylum seekers arriving from Texas. Now, I'm going to give you examples tonight of what these tiers can do, but it all goes to all that Heartland Alliance does. So if you've got $5,000, let me see it. Raise it nice and high. Who's got $5,000 in the room right now? Give it up for them, everybody. 317, 324, 282. Any other 5,000s in the room? 5,000 going once? 5,000 going twice? That's $15,000. Give it up for them, everybody. And Charlie, I know you were one of them. We have our next level, 2,500. This is the kind of magic and love we have in this room tonight. Peter Kovler. Where you at, Peter? Where you at, Peter? Raise your hand. Give it up for Peter, everybody. And he's so cool about it, too. He's like, yeah, I know. What's up? Peter does so much, but he wanted to do a little bit more. He said, Brett, I said, yes, Peter, because we're on a first name basis. He said, Brett, I will give an extra $25,000 tonight if we can match 10 2,500s in the room to make another 25,000. I will give that. That's how wonderful this man is. So right now, I think we can do it. Raise those paddles nice and high. If you got 2,500 in the room, raise it up. 402, 107, 386, 427, 447. We're almost there. 402, 187, 174, 396, 432, 454. Going once, going twice. Guess what? We just raised $50,000. Woo! Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Whew. Don't worry, it wasn't like Peter was going to go, no, I'm not giving it. He was going to give it anyway, just to be clear. Our next level, $1,000. You've heard me say it. You know what this money can do. So if you got it, raise it nice and high and make some differences tonight. Give them some encouragement, everybody. 325, 457, 319, 313, 316, 365, 507, 411, 417, 325, 327, 516, 291, 351, 408, 377, 325. We have one over there. 168. Any other thousands in the room? 1,000 going once. 1,000 going twice. Make some noise. 323. A sneak attack at the end. I like it. Going once. Going twice. One more time. Give it a round of applause, everybody. Nice. This is how we do it. I'm obviously being silly up here to give some joy in the room for all that we do, but this is how we do it. This is how we heal tonight with all your donations. And we got a couple tiers left. $500, I want to give you an example. We'll provide a deposit for a safe new apartment for a participant who is settling in Chicago. Safety. They come to Chicago, you can supply a place for them to live, for them to feel safe, for them to start a new life with $500. Raise it up if you got it. Let me see it. 146, 363, 520, 359, 319, 510, 357, 372, 426, 309, 378. I like this. 364. He's shaking it proudly. 446, 456, 192, 273, and 274. 167, 455, 170, 175, 182, 285, 218, 234, 170, 131. Thank you for jumping in the back. Any other numbers in the room? I better go oh, we got a whole bunch. 131. Did I get these? 132, 134, 136, 213. Oh, hello there. Welcome to the party. 369. With a big smile. I like it. She's like, me. Any other 500s in the room? 500 going once. 500 going twice. You know what to do. Give them a nice round of applause, everybody. Yes. Our next tier, $250. Think about what $250 is to you. You know? Stay home, watch Netflix for a weekend. That's $250. You've gone out in Chicago. I know you have. I can see these suits and dresses. $250 will cover the cost of food kits for 10 families in Colombia, feeding these families on their migratory routes. That's why these numbers are already in the air. If you got 250, let me see it. 143, 404, 471, 270, 211, 284, 428, 143, and she's dancing with it. Feel free to dance if you need to. 465, 459, 373, 330, 331, 523, 368, 367, 444, 420. No wonder you're dancing. 453, 236. Thank you for the laughter. 517, 328, 239, 437, 196. Hope you're keeping up with me, Margaret. 287, 117, 294, 381, 221, 215, 250, 361, 517, 178, 115, 114, 515, 183, 187, 185, 177, 172, 244, 381, 242, 135, 133. Do we get it yet? She's holding it like this, and thank you. 186, 435. Who's waving to me? 248. Going once. Going twice. Make some noise, everybody. Woo! Yes! I think we even got Chris Ryan on that one. Normally, we would move to $100, but we want to celebrate tonight, and please make some noise for a 135-year history of Heartland Alliance. 135 years as leaders of human rights. So, if you got 135, you know how much of a difference it makes. Raise it nice and high. Let me see some 135s in the room. 165, 166, 493, 391, 271, 290, 311, 194, 189, 201, 355. I like all your dance moves tonight. 344, 238, 348, 150, and 151. 393, 332, 171, 454, 521, 116. Get it, girl, get it. 210, 212. She's flagging down a plane. 380, 152, 434, 111, 470. Is that it? I can't see. 172. Thank you. Give it up for her for standing up. She's like, I have to donate. I have to donate. Any others in the room? Going once. Make sure. Going twice. Give them a round of applause. Oh, we got, what is that? One more? Is that, yeah? Were you napping? What was happening back there? 118. Give it up for 118. A late call. She's like, I have to give. You know how much love there is in this room? I do this a lot. I love what I do. I love helping organizations. There's been so much applause as all this has been going on because there's so much love in this room. Usually people get tired. They're like, okay, hurry up. I gave. Please, you guys, you have so much love in this room. It's amazing. And I want to see it one more time. We got a $50 level. Think about it again. $50. $50, what that is to you and how that can save someone's life. It may not seem that way because it's only $50, but 50 plus 50 plus 50, it all adds up. So the last tier of the night, if you got 50, let me see it. Raise it nice and high. Any 50s in the room? 487, 167, 142, 226, 356, 522. I'm liking this. 460, 167, 489, 207, 400, 233, 509, 350. Oh, is there something happening over here? 459, 191, 456, 193. She's waving it like she's on The Price is Right. 509. Any others? 279. Of course, my middle of the room. 247, 246, 168. Any other 50s? Going once? Yes. 307. You're awesome. Me. She's now the winner on The Price is Right. Any other 50s? 488. I can wait all day, people. Going once? Going twice? One more time. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's my party crew right here. I meant it from the bottom of my heart. It is a blessing that I get to be part of the Heartland Alliance family. This is magic here tonight. And please, at any time, if you realize you get home, you got a little extra you can give, you can always give any time. It's been a pleasure. Please welcome to the stage Alita and Ali.
I cede my time to Alita, but just really quickly, Ali Azim, I sit on the board just here of Heartland. I got involved 1 year ago. One piece of advice that I would ask everybody to do, that was an awesome show of just like the for-profit spirit. And we need more of that for-profit spirit, just in terms of contributions. But I would ask everybody, we have so many programs. We have so many different things going on. Spend 5 minutes on the website. Find a board member. Find somebody that works with the group and just come and see us in action. It is so darn powerful.
I'm the wrap-up hitter. And I want to echo Ali's plea for you all to come join us, to work with us in a variety of ways. It will totally change your life. It is the most selfish thing you will ever do. You will make friendships and find courage and joy and just grit you had no idea you had. And tomorrow there is a free event. Mary will not let me come down from the stage if I don't say this. Join us for a free happy hour tomorrow night at, Mary, where is it? At River Roast. Sorry, I have the wrong email up. So please come meet our program countries, directors. You can harass all of us who are on the board. But before you leave, I have to give you 2 unscripted marching orders. This December is the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is the single most important international agreement in the history of the United States and our role in the world. It is the fundamental principle of Heartland Alliance. If you go into the door, it's the first thing you see on the wall. I'm Alita Black. I am the proudest possible member that you could be associated with the Kovler Center for the Survivors of Torture. It is the most essential social service organization I can think of anywhere in the United States. And if we don't stand up and stop thinking about ourselves and thinking about other people for a change, our country is going to go further down the toilet. And Kovler is all about finding links and hope and grit that you never know you have, and you learn it from the people you work with. And it is joyful. Unless you think I'm crazy, I'm going to give you an example. She may never speak to me and disown me from her wedding this weekend. But 8 years ago, Maimo Mazulu showed up in Chicago with the clothes on her back. She had no money. She spoke Congolese French. She is the bravest person I will ever know. And last weekend, she graduated with the highest honors possible from Roosevelt University School of Nursing. And she had the sense to fall in love with David, and David had the sense to fall in love with Maimo and the courage to put up with me. So I'm just telling you that the work that Kovler and Heartland Alliance does is just flippin' magical. And so thank you for what you've done tonight.